All right, we're here this afternoon with Mr. Jason Yount in Northwest Arkansas, and he has written his legacy letter. And so we're just going to ask him a few questions about his experience writing that letter. Jason, how you doing?
Excellent. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Are you you're working from home today, I see. Is that
No,
right?
this is actually my
Oh,
office.
that's the office? Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. I'd like to be working from home today, but not today.
Well, tell us about your family and who you wrote the letter to, and maybe how you even knew about the Legacy Letter Challenge.
Sure. I was introduced to the Legacy Letter Challenge through my work. Rob Kimball, uh, your sister works for Kimball Mechanical, and so I think maybe she mentioned something to Rob, and it piqued his interest. And I'm not really sure of the whole backstory there, but um, he basically purchased a plan to let all of the employees have the opportunity to write that letter. And it's been something that I wanted to do for a long time. It had been on my mind. It was on my mind because my parents, I lost both of my parents at a fairly young age. I mean, they were both in their early 60s. My mother passed away of cancer, and my father just had some complications and had some for quite some time. And then he passed away about 2.5 years later. So I lost them when I was in my 30s, late 30s. And I had a daughter that was about 5 years of age when they passed away. And so, I thought about things of how she would remember them, and I wish they would have maybe left something for her, and even for me. Just even if it were just some brief comments, it was something that I was like, yeah, I wish I really had something like that. And so I'd always had it in the back of my mind to write this letter, and yeah, I'm going to get to it someday. And when this came along, this opportunity that Rob let all the employees know about it, it was something that piqued my interest to do for my daughter, for sure.
Well, that's awesome. And it's that's part of the reason that we created the program, is because I realized there's a lot of us out, a lot of dads like, man, I see the value in writing this letter, want to get it done, but then life happens, or busy. For so
Sure.
many different reasons, we just don't get to doing it.
It's easy to say, tomorrow, 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 and before you know it, months and years go by, and none of us are promised tomorrow either. We all know that. So I immediately, as soon as that opportunity came forward, I accepted it within minutes. It didn't take me even a moment to go, yeah, that's for me. And even how to even start a letter like that, it's like, what do you even write, And so to have some guidance, man, that was a big deal, and it was very helpful.
How old's your daughter?
She's just turned 18.
Just turned 18.
So, yeah, she turned 18 late June, and I gave her that letter on her birthday. So
Awesome. Well, so let's go back to like the process of writing the letter.
sure.
So, I had no idea what your expectations were going into the deal, or what the lessons would look like.
Right.
And, there's several lessons that help kind of prepare your heart and mind, as I say it, to write this letter.
Sure.
As you were going through those lessons, I know it's been several months since you did it. Do you remember any of that, or does any of that resonate with you? What did you think?
Yeah, I like the fact that there was a pretty simple outline to follow. There was some triggering things that would remind us, hey, here's kind of what you might want to think about or consider putting in the letter, whether it was something as kind of hard as far as regrets, things like that. Though, obviously every father has some, and I certainly have had my share. One of the things that's been difficult is, and I don't mind to get a little personal, is I went through a divorce when she was 3. And so only child, number one. I remarried to a wonderful woman that I've been with now for 13 years, and she had 4 kids from her previous marriage. And so Chloe inherited siblings, 2 brothers, 2 sisters, which she had longed for when she was really little. But being an only child, being a child of divorce, her losing her grandparents so early, there was just a lot of things that was like, man, she's been through the ringer a little bit, and maybe some of it is my fault, and how did that affect her? So I thought of that, and a lot of that was put into the letter to her. Another big one was, having us write a letter to ourselves we wish our father would have written.
Yeah.
Man, that was tough.
Yeah, that's tough for a lot of guys.
Yeah, and I, I imagine there's a lot of fathers out there that are going through this letter, they're writing this letter, or they've already written it, and they still have their fathers in their lives. I'm sure there's a good share of that. But it really hits home when you've lost a parent. I know you have too, Blake, and when you start to write a letter to your children, as I'm sure you have, then it's a tearjerker. It's a tough spot for sure. But it was good to go through for me. It was cleansing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good word. Cleansing and just therapeutic is another word I use.
Sure.
It's definitely hard. I told some dads last week that I was helping write their letter, and I said, guys, this exercise of writing a letter from your dad is going to be hard for some of you guys for different reasons. Maybe your dad's gone. Maybe, you really long for some of these things that you wish your dad would have said to you, whether he's alive or not alive. And I said, this is going to be hard, but this is what guys do. We do hard things, and it's what men do. And so it's going to be worth it. So I'm glad to hear that it was good for you. You had a good experience. You made it through it.
Absolutely.
And then
I think it was excellent. It was an excellent experience. I wouldn't say it was a good experience. It was an excellent experience. And it was something that I didn't know was out there. I didn't know it was available. I think what you're doing is great. And it truly helped me write a letter that, I wrote it. I'm not a perfectionist. I like things to be correct and right and in good order and make sense and all that good stuff. But it doesn't have to be perfect for me, but this letter was a big deal, and I wanted it to be as close to perfect as I can make it. And I think without that help of that outline that has been built, no doubt, over years by you and suggestions by others, I'm sure that it really helped me put together a letter that was much better than I could have done by myself. And it's not hard for me to express my feelings either, typically. So I don't have that roadblock per se, but this made it so much more organized, and it touched on things I probably wouldn't have thought of to touch on had I not gone through the course.
Man, that's awesome. What about on the advice section? Do you remember any of the advice you gave her, or how did you maybe come up with what advice you were going to write to her?
I touched on the fact that don't just be aware that you can be hurt by others, but the fact that you can hurt others too with the things that you say or do. I touched on finances briefly, just as far as how to use credit and not, when to use it when it's appropriate, and how to use it. So I went into the finances a little bit and just kind of remembering where she came from and how she was raised, and to always kind of keep that in the back of her mind, even though now she's a legal adult. It's hard to even think that's possible, but the fact that she can join the military and vote for the next president is a scary thing, because I look at her as a little girl. But so yeah, I touched on some of those things, just life lessons, and again, the fact that you helped drive home the point of, the main part of the letter is to make sure they knew that they were loved, they knew that they were valued, and that I've learned things from her as an adult. Yeah. Watching her maturity from just youth all the way up to now adulthood has been just something to watch, and that I've valued that very highly, and I wrote that to her as well.
Man, that's awesome. So you gave it to her on her birthday. What was that like? How'd you go about that?
She made it very clear. I told her that there was this letter and this course I was going through. I told her, and I think it took me about 3 months to complete. Not to go through the course. I went through the course fairly quickly and made notes and good notes and did all the assignments as we went. But to draft that first letter and the second draft and third draft and fourth, rewatch this video, go back and do this. It took me about 3 months, 2.5 to 3 months to complete it. Once I completed it, then, and again, I told her about all of this coming up, and she said, I can't read it in front of you. And so she made it very clear. I gave her some paperwork for some tires that we put on her car. And she said, this isn't the letter, is it? You're not making me read this right now. That she was going to be emotional. She didn't want to be emotional in front of me, I guess. And so she texted me. I gave it to her, and she texted me later that evening. She was with her mom that day, and she texted me that evening that she loved it. And yeah, she's probably actually she's not as good as maybe sharing her feelings as I am, even. So yeah, she did, but she said she loved it and thanked me for it. And so yeah, but I didn't have the opportunity to let her read it in front of me.
Yeah. Well, you know that, in the moment, man, she loved it, she cherished it, but those words that you shared with her are going to be in her head forever.
Yeah.
And so those, the letter is still going to have meaning, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 30 years from now, even after you're long gone. And then your grandchildren one day are going to know what you stood for and know how you felt about your family and your daughter. So it's what we do, and we write it down. It's lasting. So, man, that's pretty awesome.
I went ahead and I had it, even picking the font of what I was going to have it printed out on was difficult. I finally landed on one, and I printed it out on nice paper, good thick, heavy stock paper, and even just kind of going through what am I going to have it printed on, and then so I hand wrote on the back of it the course name, the time frame it took for me to go through it, and then I signed it, and so kind of made it personal there too, just without it being typed out per se. But I thought something like that, very clear and printed on a good stock paper, would be something that would help her it last for a long time too, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell dads, there's no shame in saying that you went through a course. Actually, I think there's something to it to be able to tell your children, like, I cared about you enough. I cared about this letter enough that I even went through a course. I know I go through courses for work and courses for other things, but I went through a course for you.
100%.
Like, that says something.
100%. I wanted to share that with her too, just to help drive home the fact of how serious I was taking it, and put a value that I at least had on it. I knew she would have value, but the value to go through and spend my time to learn how to do the best letter I could put out, and that's what happened.
Well, do you have any final encouragements maybe for any dad who's working through his letter, or maybe a dad who's thinking about writing his legacy letter? What would you say to them?
Yeah, for me, again, because it's not hard for me to share my feelings. It wasn't as difficult maybe as it would be for others that have, my father, it was difficult for him to, I don't know if it skips a generation or what happens, but it was more difficult for him to share those things. And so I could imagine if my dad was writing the letter, how difficult it might be for him, especially trying to do it without a course. So I just, if you guys are struggling through it and not really sure what to say, or you're not comfortable saying I love you multiple times, whether it's in person or in writing, you're not promised tomorrow. So think of it that way. Your children will, if you spend the time and you're going through this course, you obviously have a love for your children that you want them to know. And just fight through it. Be honest. Share your regrets. It's tough. But I think that was probably, she mentioned, now that I think of it, one of the things that she was really, I think really drove something home is me expressing some regrets. And the fact that I had those, I hope that even things that I don't mention that she doesn't hold against me, because I certainly didn't mean anything by them. She means the world to me. And that dad damage that you talk about, that we all inevitably put on our kids, whether it's a subconscious thing or what,
right.
Something we're just impatient over and don't take the time to even have the right body language. I mean, especially girls, they remember, it seems like they don't remember all the ball games you go to, they'll remember the one you missed. And so just know that you have some dad damage out there, and this is a good thing to help recover that, for sure.
So she commented on the fact that you expressed those regrets?
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, well, what a great example, because it's very hard. It's not easy, and it's very humbling to admit if we've made a mistake or have regrets. But I think that says a lot to our children whenever we humble ourselves to do that. And I'm sure she wasn't expecting it.
No, I didn't go into the details of what the content of the letter would be, but yeah, I'm trying not to get emotional right now.
Well, Jason, you're the man, dude. Thanks for joining this mission, writing your letter. And obviously you love your daughter. And so pretty cool what you did. And thanks for sharing with us today your experience.
You bet. I appreciate what you do, and it means a lot, and I appreciate the help.
Awesome. All right, Jason, we'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks, Blake.